you remember this game? I've covered it a few times. It's Titus's version of Dick Tracy, or Titus or whatever, released for the Amiga and Speccy amongst others, and I'm on record as having called it one of the absolute worst games I've ever played in my life. That more famous NES game is pretty wretched too. With this in mind, you wonder if there was any good game that involved Dick Tracy. I mean seriously, these games are a whole other level of terrible. In those couple of years of Dick Tracy mania, when everyone suddenly went wild for an age-old Chicago cop plucked straight out of 1930s comics, was this the best that people could do? But then I remember the Dick Tracy game for the Mega Drive, and everything is once again right with the world. This is a fantastic game, one that came very close to being covered back in the A to Z of licensed games, only just beaten out by my desire to praise the often maligned Die Hard game for the NES. And now it's time to give this game what it deserves. Dick Tracy is arguably the first game by one of the Mega Drive's top-level dev teams, the Sega Technical Institute, the US-based team that would go on to make Kid Chameleon and Comic Zone, not to mention sharing the credits on Sonic 2. And they cut their teeth on this little licensed game, a side-scroller with a rather cool twist. Wisely, Dick Tracy doesn't follow the convoluted twists and turns of the 1990 Warren Beatty movie, instead concentrating on the most famous villains from the strip's endless rogues gallery. Honestly, it's closest in spirit to the old 60s TV cartoons. Big Boy is the main villain and is based on Al Pacino's appearance in the film, just as Tracy is based on Beatty, but you also get Itchy, LeBro, Lips Manless, Pruneface, and the almighty Flat Top, an antagonist so brilliantly designed that when he was originally killed off in the 40s, America went into national mourning. No, really. Dick takes on all of these villains through 6 stages, with the aim of finding out where Big Boy is so he can finally take him down once and for all. The design is a typical side-scroller at first, with the twist being that Dick has a pistol and a machine gun at his disposal. The pistol dispenses of enemies directly in front of him, but the machine gun, a good old Chicago typewriter, deals death to any hoodlum who comes at Tracy from the other side of the street. So you get a side-scroller where you have to pay attention to 2 planes at once, a lot of the time. It's fun, and always demands your attention. The machine gun also gives you the chance to do a lot of damage to the scenery, which is rather rare for a 16-bit game. Windows, fire hydrants, cars. Most things that get in the way end up with a whole bunch of holes in them. And hey, if you can't see who's inside, then obviously you didn't kill any civilians in the process, right? Right. There's a couple of variations in the stages to mix things up too, ones where you're not allowed any bullets, and others where you hitch a ride on the side of a cop car. Each round has 3 levels with 6 in all, plenty enough for a jolly good time. For the most part, I really like this game. The machine gun is a great addition to what would have been an otherwise fairly generic if well-made side-scroller, and while there isn't a whole lot of variation in the mooks that you face, what's here is serviceable. The boss battles, all of which take place on a regular stage with the boss in the background, are just about all excellent. The music fits perfectly and it absolutely feels like a 16-bit game every step of the way. Along with games like Castle of Illusion and Strider that came out in the same year, this is one of those games that absolutely feels like a game you couldn't pull off at all on Nintendo. The only major issue I have is those bloody stages with no bullets. It feels like a bullshit restriction, especially considering that Tracy's punch is somewhat weak and, of course, the enemies pay no attention to those restrictions. I mean, I can't use my gun because the alleyway's too narrow? Screw you, Chief Brandon. Select all these mooks, why don't you? It makes for a challenging game, although one that does at least give you plenty of chances. If you get good at the bonus stages, which isn't all that hard, then you can amass a whole ton of credits throughout the course of the game. Still, I've never beaten it without save states. Specifically, this section of Stage 6A is the furthest I've ever got, and I simply can't figure out how to get past it without turning that famous banana raincoat into various shades of crimson. But despite never having beaten it, I still consider it a very worthy game indeed. It's tough primarily because it's a well-designed and mean side-scroller, not because it's a whole load of bullshit just like all the other Dick Tracy games. It's kind of nice to cover a game that's this good so soon after Green Dog, that's for sure, and as it's still pretty cheap and common, I would highly recommend it. It's just damn good, no matter how many bits are involved. And just when you think that poor old dumb Dick never got the licensed game that was anything more than total garbage, you always remember that this game's been here, all the time, just to prove everybody wrong. See you tomorrow.